My father said you needed a wife. For a heartbeat, every executive in the glass conference room smiled, expecting the struggling single father standing near the door to laugh nervously or politely decline. Instead, the man looked into the CEO's eyes with quiet dignity, and the answer he gave erased every assumption anyone had made about him. He simply said that his daughter didn't need another stranger pretending to love her. She needed someone who would choose them both every single day. Those words left the CEO completely speechless. The conference room overlooked the bright skyline of Portland, where the morning sun reflected across the river and filled the building with warm light. Rowan Mercer had never imagined he would find himself inside one of the city's most successful technology companies. His shoes were worn, his shirt had been carefully ironed the night before, and every dollar he earned disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. Raising his 7-year-old daughter, Clara, alone had taught him how to stretch every paycheck and every ounce of hope. Rowan had once been an engineer with a promising future. Life had changed after his wife passed away from a sudden illness that left behind medical bills, heartbreak, and a frightened little girl who no longer believed birthdays could ever feel happy again. Since then, Rowan worked wherever he could, fixing equipment, repairing machinery, and accepting temporary contracts just to keep food on the table. He had learned that pride could not buy groceries, but integrity could still help a father sleep at night. That morning he had come to Mercer Dynamics for an interview to supervise maintenance across several company facilities. It wasn't glamorous work, but it offered stability, health insurance, and a future he desperately wanted for Clara. The interview had gone surprisingly well until Rowan recognized the portrait hanging in the executive hallway. It was the face of Theodore Mercer, the elderly philanthropist who had quietly funded the neighborhood community center where Clara attended after school. Theodore had once met Rowan while volunteering there and had admired how the exhausted father still found time to repair broken playground equipment without asking for payment. Apparently Theodore had remembered him. Before Rowan left the building, he was unexpectedly invited upstairs to meet Theodore's daughter, the company's young CEO, Celeste Mercer. Celeste had built a reputation for impossible standards. Investors admired her brilliance. Employees respected her discipline. Newspapers praised her leadership while quietly wondering why one of the country's most eligible businesswomen remained single despite her success. She wasn't cold because she lacked compassion. She was guarded because she had spent years watching ambitious people value the Mercer fortune more than the Mercer family. When Rowan entered her office, Theodore was seated comfortably beside the enormous windows, smiling with the satisfaction of someone watching a carefully planned surprise unfold. The elderly man explained that after losing his wife decades earlier, he had learned that success meant very little if there was no kindness waiting at home. He believed Rowan possessed the kind of character that money could never purchase. Then Theodore looked at his daughter with playful seriousness. "My dear," he said, "I told you that man needed a real opportunity." Celeste smiled before turning toward Rowan. "My father also said you needed a wife." The room had expected embarrassment. Instead Rowan quietly answered that Clara didn't need another stranger pretending to love her. She needed someone willing to love a little girl before ever loving her father. Silence followed, not because anyone felt uncomfortable, because no one had expected such honesty. Celeste had negotiated billion-dollar contracts without blinking, yet she found herself unable to respond. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her without trying to impress her. Rowan thanked them both for considering him, accepted the maintenance position, and returned to work without expecting anything more. Weeks became months beneath bright afternoon skies filled with construction cranes, delivery trucks, and employees crossing the campus between buildings. Rowan transformed neglected maintenance systems, prevented expensive equipment failures, and became known for solving problems nobody else noticed. He never sought recognition. He simply believed that every honest job deserved honest effort. More importantly, he never missed Clara's school performances. Even when meetings ran late, Rowan somehow arrived before the first song began. Several employees noticed that while executives often discussed work-life balance, Rowan quietly lived it. Celeste noticed too. Curiosity slowly replaced distance. She began visiting maintenance projects under the excuse of inspecting renovations. She discovered Rowan reading library books with Clara during lunch breaks in the company courtyard whenever school was closed. She watched the little girl laugh while pigeons wandered through the sunshine, completely unaware that one of the city's most powerful CEOs sat only a few benches away. One afternoon Clara spotted Celeste sitting alone. Instead of being intimidated, she walked over carrying half of her sandwich. Children rarely cared about titles, they noticed lonely people. Clara offered the sandwich because, in her innocent words, nobody should eat lunch by themselves. Celeste accepted the tiny gift with watery eyes. No board member had ever offered her something so valuable. Over the following weeks, an unexpected friendship formed, not between a billionaire executive and an employee, between three people who each carried different kinds of loneliness. Theodore watched everything with quiet amusement. He never interfered again. He simply waited. Then Mercer Dynamics faced the largest crisis in its history. A multinational corporation launched a hostile takeover after secretly buying large amounts of company stock. Rumors spread rapidly throughout the financial world. Employees feared layoffs. Investors demanded immediate restructuring. Several executives proposed eliminating hundreds of lower-paying positions to reassure shareholders. Rowan happened to overhear fragments of those discussions while repairing equipment near a conference room. He wasn't angry. He was heartbroken. Those jobs belonged to parents who packed school lunches, cared for aging parents, and struggled just like he once had. That afternoon Celeste walked through one of the company's manufacturing buildings and found Rowan quietly helping a new employee repair damaged machinery. She asked what he thought about the uncertainty surrounding the company. Rowan answered honestly. He said every spreadsheet represented real families, and leaders eventually revealed who they truly were when frightened people depended on them most. Those words followed Celeste long after she returned upstairs. For the first time since becoming CEO, she ignored the easiest financial solution. Instead, she searched for another path. Working through endless daylight hours with her team, she uncovered unnecessary executive spending, renegotiated supplier contracts, delayed luxury expansion projects, and convinced long-term investors that protecting skilled employees would strengthen the company's future instead of weakening it. The plan succeeded. The hostile takeover collapsed. Not a single family lost employment. When employees learned what had happened, applause echoed across offices, workshops, and warehouses. Most never knew that one maintenance supervisor's quiet perspective had changed the direction of an entire corporation. Several days later Theodore invited Rowan and Clara to a charity picnic held beneath clear blue skies. In one of Portland's largest public parks, families laughed together while children played across the grass. No expensive suits. No board meetings. Just ordinary people sharing ordinary happiness. As the afternoon unfolded, Theodore gently admitted that his unusual comment months earlier had never been about arranging a marriage. He had wanted his daughter to meet someone whose wealth couldn't be measured by bank accounts. He believed both Rowan and Celeste had spent years building walls around wounded hearts. Whether love followed was entirely their decision. Celeste smiled. She confessed that Rowan's answer that first morning had frustrated her because it exposed something she had forgotten. Real love wasn't about rescuing lonely adults. It was about protecting vulnerable children. She apologized for assuming his life needed fixing. Rowan admitted he had judged wealthy people too quickly, believing success always came with arrogance. She had proven him wrong. Time continued moving gently forward. Their friendship deepened through shared volunteer work, community projects, school events, and quiet afternoons spent helping Theodore restore old park benches that children loved climbing over. Neither of them rushed toward romance because both understood that trust grew stronger when it wasn't forced. Clara noticed the change before either adult did. One sunny afternoon she drew a picture using colored pencils. It showed herself standing between Rowan, Celeste, and Theodore beneath an enormous tree. Above them she had written only 4 words: "Families can grow again." The drawing reduced every adult nearby to tears. Months later, during another bright afternoon at the same community center where Theodore had first met Rowan, volunteers gathered to celebrate the completion of a new playground funded jointly by Mercer Dynamics employees. Children filled every swing, parents smiled without worrying about the cost because everything was free. Standing before the crowd, Theodore quietly stepped aside and allowed Rowan and Celeste to speak instead. Neither delivered a polished corporate speech. They simply thanked everyone who believed that kindness could rebuild lives more effectively than money ever could. Before the celebration ended, Rowan looked at Celeste with complete certainty, not because she was a CEO, but because Clara already trusted her with the most precious thing she possessed, her heart. This time, there was no audience waiting for a dramatic answer, only 3 generations standing beneath warm daylight. Rowan reached for Celeste's hand. She didn't ask whether he finally needed a wife. He didn't ask whether she still feared letting someone into her carefully protected world. Neither question mattered anymore. What mattered was that they had both learned love could never be arranged by wealth, reputation, or expectations. It could only be earned through patience, sacrifice, honesty, and the quiet choice to keep showing up for one another every single day. Before this story comes to an end, take a moment to reflect. What do you believe creates a real family? Blood, marriage, or the everyday choice to love and stand by one another? Leave a meaningful comment and share your thoughts. Years later, visitors to the community center often admired the beautiful playground without knowing the story behind it. They saw children laughing beneath the afternoon sun, parents smiling from nearby benches, and volunteers working side by side. Among them were Rowan, Celeste, Clara, and Theodore, never seeking recognition, never chasing applause. They had discovered that life's greatest fortunes were measured in trust restored, tears healed, promises kept, and hearts willing to open again after unimaginable loss. Their journey reminded everyone who met them that kindness is never wasted, forgiveness can rewrite the future, and hope quietly grows wherever people choose compassion over pride. Sometimes the greatest answer to life's hardest question isn't spoken in a boardroom at all. Sometimes it is lived, one ordinary day at a time, until strangers become family and broken hearts learn to believe again. If you'd like, I can also.